What the hell? All right, I think we're live now. So said I was experiencing some network difficulties, but I think we're good. Welcome to this edition of the IU Hoops Halftime Report. I'm Jared Morris here to break down the first half of this IU Fort Wayne game. Just opening up the YouTube live page so I can see the comments. All right, so on the bright side, in last year's Fort Wayne game, they were up by 4 at halftime, I think. And in this one, at least we're up by 1. So we got that going for us. But look, I think anybody who was a little bit afraid of a letdown after that big win on Saturday against Notre Dame, you know, what we're seeing in this game are some classic signs of a letdown, most notably with the turnovers. That's obviously the biggest storyline, as the Hoosiers have turned the ball over 12 times already today. And you know, a lot of them have just been, you know, look, Fort Wayne is good at forcing turnovers. It's one of the strengths of their team. But a lot of Indiana's turnovers have really been self-inflicted. You know, Justin Smith had to travel. Robert Johnson has 4 turnovers. You know, Deron Davis has made some really bad passes in open court situations. And pretty much everybody who's played has turned it over except for Zach McRoberts and Al Durham. So, you know, look for things that need to get better in the second half. That has got to be better. And if it does get better, Indiana should be fine in this game because they're forcing turnovers. Fort Wayne has turned the ball over 9 times. Indiana, really, for the most part, doing a pretty nice job defensively outside of a few three-pointers that they've given up. But it's the turnovers on offense that are giving Fort Wayne a chance to stay in this game. And, you know, just look at the points off turnovers. Fort Wayne has scored 16 points off turnovers. Indiana has only scored 5, and that is the reason why Fort Wayne is only down by 1 in this game. In terms of individuals, you know, I mentioned the 4 turnovers for Robert Johnson. He now has 10 turnovers over the last 60 minutes of basketball, and that's obviously not good. On the bright side, Robert really seems to have found his shot. He, you know, drained a couple of three-pointers. He's 5 of 9 overall, 2 of 4 from downtown. He has 13 points. So it's nice to see the scoring back. But for whatever reason, you know, these last 2 games, the scoring's been back, the shooting's been back, but it's been combined with just an insane amount of turnovers. He had 6 against Notre Dame, 4 today. So Robert really needs to clean that up. Obviously, if he can, you know, he'll kind of be back to playing the kind of Robert Johnson basketball that we know we need from him. This was not a good half for Juwan Morgan, who, you know, had 4 points and started out pretty nicely. You know, took it to the hole a couple of times, looked good doing it. But really, I don't know. He didn't seem quite as locked into me. Hard to say from, you know, 1,000 miles away in Dallas watching on TV. But I think, you know, if you look for individuals who maybe had a little bit of a letdown, kind of felt like a little bit of a letdown from Morgan. Obviously, he had the 2 fouls, so he only played the 6 minutes. But I just, you know, for whatever, just, you know, kind of watching it on TV, he didn't look quite like the same guy to me. So hopefully in the second half, he gets back in there and gets back to doing Juwan Morgan things because, you know, we've kind of been afraid, you know, he gets hurt. What is this team going to look like without him? Well, we got to see a long stretch of basketball there without him. And Indiana looked really good without him right when he went out. You know, Morgan went out, Deron Davis went out, and that was really when Indiana probably played their best in the first half. You had my favorite lineup, I say that sarcastically, the McBob lineup, with Zach McRoberts and Freddie McSwain together, a lineup I don't like because those guys are so limited offensively, but it coincided with Robert Johnson going off and scoring 8 or 10 straight points, so it worked out okay. But really, we've got to get Deron and Juwan in there and get those guys going. 8 points combined, that's just not going to get it done. You know, you can kind of have one guy not playing well if the other guy is really on, but you can't have both of them struggling, and both of those guys struggled a little bit. You know, Deron did have 6 rebounds, and that was nice to see, but missed a couple of easy shots that normally he would make. So obviously Indiana needs to get him going in the second half. In terms of a guy who I thought, you know, played pretty well was Devontae Green. You know, he had 6 points, a couple of assists, a couple of steals, had that nice block. You know, I thought that was really one of the better sequences of the half. What was the score then? It was 33-30, right about the 3-minute mark. And Devontae Green got that block shot. Deron Davis made a nice outlet pass. And then Josh Newkirk got the layup. And, you know, something to watch for the second half is Josh Newkirk is getting to the basket anytime he wants to. Now, unfortunately, you know, he's missed a couple of easy ones. He missed a layup. Missed a couple other ones that were in close, but he finally made a couple there toward the end. And obviously, if he's going to take it and drive like that, he needs to finish. But he's able to get in there and beat these guys off the dribble. So I would look to see him try and attack a little bit more in the second half. And hopefully all the guys continue to attack, because Indiana, while it feels nice with Robert Johnson hitting a couple of those threes, this team is still not shooting well from downtown. Only 3 of 11 from downtown. Obviously shooting much better on 2-point field goals, shooting 59.1%. And that's with missing some easy ones. So I think the formula here for Indiana is to continue to attack the rim, get Juwan back in there, let him go to work, get the ball into Duran. And for the guards, especially Robert and Josh, who have really been able to get into the paint whenever they've wanted to, get it in there and get easy looks, and stop trying to overcomplicate things. Robert, one of his turnovers was a pass to Freddie McSwain. Freddie McSwain's rolling to the basket, but he's still 15 feet from the basket. And yeah, Freddie could have caught the pass, but I put that one on Robert because, number one, it's tough. It was a tough pass for him to catch, and Freddie doesn't have great hands. And number two, what's he going to do with it even if he gets the ball? If that's Juwan Morgan, maybe it's a little bit different because he can take it and do something with it. But I don't think, Freddie McSwain is going to be able to do anything with it there. So, I suppose to a certain extent, a bit of a letdown in the first half was to be expected, given the big game on Saturday. But now I'd really like to see this team, show some mental toughness, come out and really assert themselves. Because if we learned anything last year, you let this Fort Wayne team hang around, and they're going to be in it for the long haul. And, last year, it's not like we let them hang around. It's almost like we were having to hang around, because I think they got up by 12 at one point in the second half before we stormed back to force overtime. So we obviously can't have a repeat of that. And when you've got guys like Conchar and Scott and Harrell, who are really capable players and are confident enough to think that they can win this game, you can't give them light at the end of the tunnel. You can't let them think that they're going to be coming into Simon Scott Assembly Hall and doing that. So I think the first 5 or 6 minutes of the second half here are really important. All the guys will be back in there. Indiana needs to take care of the ball and then just go to work and get points down low, just like they did at the end of the Notre Dame game. Go back to that formula, get Juwan Morgan back in there playing well. And I think Indiana will be okay. I'm not worried yet that we're going to lose this game, but the 12 turnovers, Fort Wayne only down by 1. I'd be lying if I said that there wasn't a little bit of doubt maybe creeping in the very back there. Because frankly, I thought that we'd come out and play a little bit better in the first half. We didn't. But let's come out in the second half, guys, and just get back to doing the things that we do, because that was not a half of Archie Miller style basketball. It was on the defensive end. I thought the defense was better. But from an offensive perspective, that's where I thought Indiana's focus really lacked. And from a defensive perspective, look, Fort Wayne, they're running good offense. They've been able to get some good looks from 3. We can communicate a little bit better, but I still think the defense looks better. I really think this boils down to stop turning the ball over and better shot selection. And if Indiana can do those 2 things and really focus in those 2 areas, I think they'll be okay in the second half. And then we can have a nice, fun, enjoyable discussion on the post-game show, not some kind of depressing conversation where we're lamenting the fact that we backed up our big win with a bad loss. So join me on the post-game show. It'll be me and Andy tonight walking you through all the elements of this game. We look forward to it. And hopefully, again, it's a nice positive one after the Hoosiers come back and play a good second half. Thanks for joining me here on the Halftime Report, and we'll talk to you after the game.